to open the meeting and welcoming all our submitters here today. Thank you for coming along and being part of the process and submitting. It's very important that we have people actually putting some comment into our plan. So thank you very much for your attendance. Without any further ado, could I ask Julian, please, to do a Karakia Timatanga, please.
Whakataka hau ki te uru, whakataka hau ki te tonga, kia mākina kina te huta, kia mataratara ke tai, e hi aki ana te atakura. E teo he huka, he hauhu, ti hei Māori ora.
Thank you, Julian. We have a health and safety statement. Has everybody taken that as read? Has everybody read that and is aware of the document? Can I have somebody move that we take that document as read, please? Don't move it, but take it as read. Thank you very much. Philip has, and I've said Thomas as well, so it doesn't matter. We've done that. All right, I call for apologies, and the first apology I will announce is for one of our submitters, which is Roger Drower. So I will put that in as one of our immediate apologies. Have we got any further apologies, please?
Morena. Councillor Ngātaki here. I just put in apologies for me, Jackie. Thank you.
Thank you. You're online, so you're definitely not an apology. You are counted as a meeting attendance if you're online. So thank you. No further apologies. Could I have somebody accept those apologies or the apologies, please? We have there Russell Smith and Emma. Thank you, Emma. I've used this, don't get fairly relaxed here, so can use that. Thank you very much. We have now the confirmation of the agenda. The agenda is here. Everybody's seen it circulated. Yeah. So, yeah. So the agenda is in front of us. And I want to say, anyone move that we accept the agenda as such? Happy to move. Councillor Lee, Councillor Deputy Mayor Williams. All in favour? Thank you. Is there any disclosures of interest? There being no disclosures, we move on to the open WCDEM minutes for the 24th of March 2025. Those have all been also circulated. Is there anyone that would like to move that they are a true and a correct record or need adjustments? Happy to move. Thank you, Councillor Darnard. Sorry, who was the seconder? Thank you, Councillor Buckthorpe. All right, we now move in to the strategic group plan, which is the first item on our agenda, all right, which is 7.1, and that is going to be presented by Vicky Cowley. The purpose of this is to provide the Civil Defence Emergency Management, CDEM, Group Joint Committee with a verbatim submissions on the Strategic Group Plan 25-2030 and identify areas for potential amendment based on the submissions and the feedback received. And it also enables submitters to the Strategic Group Plan 2025-2030 to present to the Joint Committee to support their submission, to undertake the deliberations of all submissions and give consideration to the coordinating executive group recommendations for the proposed amendments and additions. So with that in place, do we automatically just require the first submitter? So the first submitter that we have today is Colin. Yeah. Group plan, the first, we're doing the group plan. Okay, the submitters are afterwards. So we do the group plan. So that's Vicky on first. Yeah. I thought I've been told that there's a disparity here at the front table. apologies. We'll have a whole, come up and sit up anyway. Come and sit up. You're most welcome. It's really important, Kane. Kane Zawin, is that correct? Thank you. All right. So the microphone's yours, and we'll
Yep.
call you if it's over 5 minutes.
Oh, okay. So thank you everyone and for having me here today. My name is Kaim. I am volunteering at the Waikato CDM and I'm studying at University of Waikato. So why I'm here is because as international students, we don't know about what is happening in New Zealand, right? So why I managed to get into this Waikato CDM is through the volunteer, but it's based on your interest as well. If you don't have interest, you will not get to enroll this in CDM. And to widespread the information about emergency management, right? So we need university involvement. That's why I put this community empowerment. So we should I think collaborate with the university because they have the orientation week at the beginning. So if we can have the CDM briefing at that orientation, it will be very helpful. Another one is welcome package. So every student will have the welcome package, but in there, if we can include some kind of guideline for emergency preparedness, like essential guidelines, so it will also helpful for all the international students. And last thing is about because university we have the student ambassador, and we also have the international club, like cultural clubs. So with the university support, if we can like train them as a CDM ambassador, it will also help to spread this knowledge within the university itself, and then it will also help to bring the peer-to-peer education. So this is what I would like to recommend. It is quite short. Yeah, that's all for my side. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone that would like to ask any questions? Councillor Pike.
Kia ora, and thank you so much for coming in and submitting, taking the time. I just have a couple of questions. Firstly, how did you connect with the CDM volunteer group? How did you make that connection?
It's through the volunteering Waikato. So they actually I didn't know that this CDM is there. I try to look for the volunteering work. So that's where I try to explore different skill sets. So that's where I try to see okay, there is a management area. So I say, okay, what is it about? Because civil defense itself the word is so big. And then I thought it might be to do with the military or something. So, but I just want to experience and try it out. And that's where I enrolled it. And I know how I get to understand how important is the emergency response and everything that in our daily life also. It is quite essential that we need to know what is happening in our environment and how to prepare for ourselves as well. Yeah.
Thank you. And you mentioned maybe having a stall and orientation day. But how else would you see CDM being instilled in the university? So would it be through WSU or what other ways have you seen that might have potential for CDM to interact?
You mean for the orientation at the university?
I mean, outside of that, do you see any clear opportunities for civil defence to be a pathway through, like, for example, through Waikato Student Union or?
Outside, I'm not so sure because normally people will look for through the website, like those volunteering website and job hunting website. So because as for the international student, we normally browse through those websites. That's where we get all the information. Maybe we can also add into those like housing the resident, because at every house they also have those measurement of the disaster, right? So maybe we can have some kind of awareness information on those websites, and it can also help to reach out the information to the students or like all the other people. Yeah.
Thank you. And thank you so much for sharing your perspective.
Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Buckthorpe.
Cousin, just a comment, really. Thank you very much for coming in and
Thanks.
speaking. And I think it's a very good point you've raised. It's one that we might not have considered, but we certainly will consider it and have some discussion on it. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very, very much for your time and effort for your submission. It's really appreciated to have you here and listen to your comments. As I say, we are actually at this point in time considering our, as I say, Civil Defence Emergency Management and Strategic Group Plan. So whether we include that into the plan or whether we just look at it as an operational thing, that is something that we can make a decision on during our discussions and deliberations. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Sorry, I was offline then. I shouldn't turn it off. Apologies.
That's great. Marina. The following submission was made by Roger Drower from Disability Assist Dogs Advocate New Zealand. Roger Drower is an advocate for Disability Assist Service Dogs and would like to share some relevant information with you as the spokesperson for Civil Defence Emergency Management Groups throughout New Zealand. He advocates for Disability Assist Service Dogs and their owners and what will be needed in a civil defence emergency. Disability affects over 1.1 million of New Zealand population. Many of those with disabilities have disability aids, and these can include a specially trained disability assist dog. The Dog Control Act 1996 lists the 8 organisations that can certify disability assist service dog. The Act also states that any disability assist dog accompanying and assisting a person with a disability may enter and remain in any public place. The Human Rights Act prohibits discrimination of disability assist dogs, and denying access or service is an illegal act of discrimination which can be punishable by a fine. Disability assist dogs are trained or in training to assist a person with a disability and may legally enter any public place and can be easily recognised by the jacket that they wear. When disability assist dogs are working, they must have a disability assist dog identification tag. Now, Roger asked the question in his submission why the disability assist dog identification tag is not mandatory. The disability assist dog identification tag is a unique tag worn by a certified dog to provide easy identification of disability assist dog status. What he's asking is that the disability assist dog identification CD tag is to become mandatory. The tag will provide easy recognition of a disability assist dog, allowing access to civil defence centres in an emergency, and also support rapid reunification if the dog and or owner handler become separated. Roger shares 3 examples, one during the Christchurch earthquakes and 2 during the Auckland anniversary flooding, where a disability assist service tag would have been beneficial. Keeping false service dogs out of New Zealand. He mentions here that there is a rise of attacking or rushing at registered assist service dogs, which is affecting the system, and owners are using or taking their pet dogs into places like shops, malls and hospitals and misleading people, which is not okay. Roger refers back to the Act, defined in Section 40, defining the proof of a class of dog, and also Section 41, the penalty for false statement relating to application for registration. He also mentions dog owners using fake service dog labels, which is on the rise, and Roger would like Civil Defence Emergency Management to know this. He's also provided hyperlinks around the guidelines for authorization in disability assist dogs and rights of access. He's also provided a fact sheet recognising disability assist dogs in emergencies, which lists specified agencies, and at the bottom includes the Director of Civil Defence Emergency Management. And he believes that the disability assist dog advocate can be deployed to go into any civil defence emergency throughout New Zealand at the cost to fall under the Director of Civil Defence Emergency Management. Roger and the Wellington Civil Defence Emergency Management Disability Group have been working on a workbook since 2023 called the Person-Centred Emergency Preparedness Workbook, and hopes to release this by July 2025. This is a conversational guide used by people with disabilities to tailor emergency preparedness planning to the individual support needs. Roger also comments on Waikato and the whole of New Zealand community, which plays an important role in the delivery of emergency management across reduction, readiness, response, and recovery. He also makes a statement confirming that he would like to see the group will ensure communications, policies, and plans are developed and implemented with consideration for people with disabilities, and including those accompanied by disability assistance dogs, ethnic communities, older people, 65 plus, and other groups who may be disproportionately affected. Roger's report goes on to mention trained volunteers, spontaneous volunteers, NEMA, and the Waikato Civil Defence Centre Handbook, which includes provisions for the disability assistant dogs, tags, as well as their vests. Roger states the strategic group plan in the section Waikato community has been updated to reflect disability assistance dogs consideration across all communications, policies and plans. He's shared barriers faced by disabled people in emergencies. Roger also suggests the need to include other stakeholders with a disability focus, including disability focused central government agencies such as Waikaha Ministry of Disabled People, Ministry of Social Development, Disability Support Services, Accident Compensation Corporation, Disability Assist Dog Advocate, New Zealand Sign Language, and disability service providers for all New Zealand. Climate change amplifies the marginalisation experienced by persons with disabilities, negatively affecting health, reducing access to healthcare services, food, water, and accessible infrastructure. People with psychosocial disabilities have tripled the rate of mortality in heat waves. While the plan rightly focuses on inclusive community-led approaches, there is currently no reference to accessible emergency messaging, such as New Zealand Sign Language, easy read, screen reader friendly, involving disabled people and their representative organisations in planning, accessible infrastructure and evacuation processes, health-related needs, and disability inclusive risk assessments. He also refers to the United Nations Convention on the Rights of People with Disabilities and lists hyperlinks to these reports and documents. Roger closes his report with thank you for your time and your understanding, Roger Drow.
Thank you, sir. That was a very full and comprehensive report. Well done.
Thank you.
And as I say, we've actually put in the annual plan, I'll just read out the proposed amendment that we're putting in. And the proposed amendment is the updating the Waikato community section to reflect broader disability community considerations. And I think this is in the plan, so that we can't get into the nuts and bolts, but we can actually put that in to actually recognise. I do know Roger, and I've seen his dogs and been with it. So I do know that there is a part of the community that doesn't get a lot of recognition at times. Now I open the meeting. Anyone else want to ask any questions for Sia, although it's probably not her role to actually have full knowledge.
Can't speak to Roger's
No, I
report.
can't. You can't.
However, I
You just
can
read
answer
the
any
submission.
questions.
But there was any
the
further
welfare.
considerations that anyone wishes to raise? No further considerations? Thanks, Sia, for
You're
a
welcome.
very, very good job. It was not an easy job and a lot to read. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We now call on our third submitter, and that is Thankshusha Abawardna. And thank you very much for coming and attending here today. You've got the microphone if you switch it on. That's in front of you. And you're away. That's it.
Yeah, kia ora. Is it possible to have my PowerPoint presentation? Okay, yeah. Kia ora. I'm Tanuksha Abhevardhana. I'm a volunteer, as Kain, also a volunteer from CDM, and I'm a student from University of Waikato studying strategic management. So the first, could you please move on? Yes. I would like to draw your attention to two points, two insights actually, where it belongs to reduction, 4 R's. One of the reduction, another one is the strategic focus of our CDM. So the reduction, we all have good job doing readiness, recovery, response, that other 3 R's in our strategic plan. It's very well done. Thank you for the CDM team for that. So, and reduction in terms of disasters, we have to pay a little bit more attention because without reduction, we cannot go further. So we can go further without reduction, and it is not cost benefit. So we have some reduction measures that have taken from CDM group, like flood, to reduce the flood, that sort of things. But I'm thinking of, as I have learned with CDM group collaborations, we have more than 20 disasters. Have you have that sort of understanding when we're thinking of reduction in our strategic plan? So I have taken these two examples from the last week incidents of Christchurch, where the water contamination of Escherichia coli, it will happen. If it happens in luckily, it is not gone for the outbreaks. So if it happens in our region, for Waikato region, for the Waikato River, do we have some sort of precautions or the proactive measures not to happen that sort of outbreaks? So that's what I'm thinking of reduction. That's why I saying the water in the Christchurch. So the Minamata Bay disease, because every time our councils do the best to do the solid waste management. So I'm really appreciate that one. So, but every time I see the landfill box, our waste management box, or the cabin, so I feel like, is it going to happen? It may be not going to happen in today or tomorrow, the disaster, but it may be the prolonged one. The Minamata Bay disease talks about the mercury contamination, what it gives the Japanese population, what sort of deformation, neurological deformations happens after 50 or 60 years for that population. That's what I'm thinking of. Are we having some sort of reduction measures to not to have the heavy metals, to have bioaccumulation through our food chains, which may cause our future generations problems. So that's why I put these two, but we may have some sort of understanding. We have done actions towards that. So it is good to have prevention is better than cure. So that's what I'm more emphasize on reduction measures. So for that, I'm thinking of having, giving you please, it is possible to give some insights to our policies in our the initiation to our policies. So infrastructure, in terms of, it is not in terms of building infrastructure, but research and development, that sort of understanding. And the awareness. Our Hamilton and Tauranga is within within most populated, dense populated areas of New Zealand, within five cities. So are we having what sort of with the sometimes the industrialization, sometimes the food demand. So we are based on our dairy and agriculture. So are we what sort of things that our communities have based on this? I'm talking about the anthropogenic disaster reduction here. So so this is about the reduction. Then next slide, please. Okay, then the beautiful thing I want to talk with you is the strategic directions. I have gone through some of the strategic directions of our councils. The most impressed one was the Hamilton City Council's 30-year land transportation plan from 2021 to 2051. I'm really impressed of this foresight planning. And Waikato Regional Council using pestle analysis, where I feel like, okay, they are doing something credible things because they have used some sort of systematic way of analyzing the issues in our Waikato region. So with that understanding, I would like to suggest to even if in our summary or executive summary or that one line, what sort of analysis that we have done to create our CDM strategic plan. It's really good. I know you have done done this one, but you haven't mentioned it. That's what I want to focus on. So what sort of analysis? It is now we are analyzing use the WCDEM model for the foresight planning. So sometimes it may be they may not integrate the value. It's still not. It's okay. So is it a WCDEM model, or is it a pestle analysis, or is we are going to have the Ishikawa analysis, or what sort of analysis? So we can give. So we can get better understand, okay, this sort of analysis that we have done. So what sort of in-depth things, sometimes about objective analysis or the problem tree analysis, any analysis, Pareto, it doesn't matter. So once mentioning that analysis, people may understand, okay, this is verified, this is credible. So the measures that we have taken is very solid. So in our strategic directions, I have seen so many strategies, but it is good to mention which year we are going to take which strategy. So still, I cannot figure out in 2026 which sort of strategic direction in our strategic plan we are going to take care of. So if we have that sort of understanding within year by year, so people may, people, community, any agency know, okay, our CDM has this strategic direction in 2026. So this is our contribution. This is our, this is the role that we are going to play. So the collaboration. So this is the collaboration that we can go. So if we cannot ask for the funding for the everything things for our government. So what sort of funding sources that we can tap on? So now recently New Zealand is the one of the country from the allegation. I mean not the connection with the Horizon Europe. I have been to that particular meeting back in university. So I have seen so many opportunities for New Zealand. It is Horizon Europe is basically funding for the research and development. Sometimes CDM may not involve in direct research and development, but they can persuade the people or the community or the agency who do the research and development based on, because in the last volunteer trip to excursion to Topo, I have learned that we have scientific research going on to through the through understanding seismic wave to get the whether it is volcanic eruption happens or not. That sort of we are not going to do the things. Sometimes we can handle social research based on that. So that's so once the people know that we are in strategic directions, they may come up with the opportunities to us to seek or the seize. So these are the 2 points, the insights that I want to make for my strategic to our strategic plan. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for a very, very comprehensive submission. That's very good. We are actually proposing within our plan at the moment, when we take a discussion period on the submissions, to improve the implementation of the 4 R's emerging management section and just to add some new tables and headings to clarify that scenario, all right, as best we can. That is what we're proposing to do them. But beyond that, is there anything further you'd like to say?
I would like to add first your question for the kind. So I think that if we can have the collaboration with the management, so rather than going with the WSU or any other clubs, it's a good point to have the good connection, because Waikato, we have the emergency management team. So if we can have that sort of collaboration with them, managerial level, it will give us the good point. I mean, a good understanding about what CDM doing and what can university can do, because there's so many. I have gone through the engineering exhibitions in our university. So many reduction measures that we can take. So with that, we can have the good understanding what university is doing, what CDM is actually wants. If we want something to experiment, we can get their research capabilities as well. So for our CDM plan, I want to have if it is good that if we can have the foresight plan for us. So actually, foresight strategic plan is for for me. I work for the Sri Lankan government as a senior consultant for productivity. Before coming to New Zealand, productivity, strategic management, and foresight planning. So there I have the collaboration of Malaysian Prime Minister's Office. I get the knowledge from Australian scholars who have the exposure to Finland, because Finland is the first country introduced this foresight planning. So with that understanding, I feel like strategic plan is should be the one of the part of foresight plan. So we have to, it is okay that now we have to have the strategic plan itself, the 5-year. It's really wonderful. But if it is a part of the foresight plan, that means we have some sort of direction, vision, a systematic way of going through that. So that's the only thing that I want to emphasize on foresight planning for our region. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I'm sure that everybody on the Joint Committee was, aware of what your submission has been, and we will consider that when we have our deliberations. So that's very much. Thank you very much. Does anybody want to ask questions from the Joint Committee? Nobody does. So thank you very much for your submission. While I'm changing over and going on, we have had 3 persons join us online. We have Councillor Jennifer Nicol from Waikato Regional Council online, and we have Councillor John Grant and Councillor Tipa Mahuta all online currently at the moment. So they've joined in with us. So that's excellent that they've done so.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I don't know whether this is appropriate time, but just going through all the submissions and especially hearing Roger's one just on disability, dogs, pets and animals is something that I feel as though going through the plan again's kind of like missed out. And I wouldn't mind whether that could be addressed on page 70 where it's got response, and item number 8, it's got a well-coordinated and effective response to an emergency that reduces the impact to people and property. Well, I'd like to put people, property, if it's possible, and pets and animals, because I think it is, especially pets, in an emergency, pets are like family to a lot of, especially elderly people and stuff like that. I just feel as though, even though it's not my turn to make a submission, but hearing Rogers, I think that's missing in the plan a little bit. So I don't know whether it's appropriate now to say that or not.
It certainly can be considered when we have our deliberations. I think that's certainly something that can be raised. I would also emphasise the one thing is that we do still want to exercise disability dogs. You know, they do have a role, quite a significant role in the community. So, but pets, I do agree that many people won't leave a home or leave in an emergency if a pet is going to be left behind. I've got a question online. Could I have that up, please?
I'm assuming that's me you're referring to, Chair. Kevin Taylor from Taupo. Sorry, I can't change the name of this meeting room. I'm technologically challenged here. Can I just speak in support of Councillor Downard's comments in terms of including animals, and I know we'll talk about this when we come to the deliberations, but that is absolutely critical in terms of operations on the ground. If you ignore the significance of animals, you just create all kinds of difficulty when a plan like this is implemented. So thank you.
Thank you for that. I just turned myself off. But no, thank you for that. And as I say, I did not realise that you're actually, sorry, the person you were, I thought it was John Grant. That's all right. Thank you.
No, I see John is here. I think I'm listed as meeting room Waikato. Anyway.
Thank you for that. Further discussions. We have in front of me at the moment, we have a motion, okay, that, Vicky, do you want to speak now before we do the motion? Sorry. Fine. So we now go back, ladies and gentlemen, to the group strategic plan presented and by Vicky, and that's to provide the group committee with the verbatim submissions and the strategic group plan. Vicky, you've got the microphone.
Thank you. If I just may give a brief summary of the overall process before you lead into the deliberations. Okay, key points. So without rehashing my full report, but in 2024, we started off, or prior to that, we did the risk assessment, which is the analysis information that Phoenicia was referring to. So that's the basis of the setup of the group plan. And then we undertook a comprehensive community survey, which we got 632 responses to. So that gave us the valuable insight of actually setting up the plan. We listened before we started drafting. So those responses played that pivotal role in shaping it and particularly set the emphasis on empowering Waikato communities to build self-resilience through proactive readiness planning. Then public consultation on the draft plan resulted in 12 formal submissions. That number may seem low in isolation, but if you consider it with the 632, it's quite a great foundational input. Aside to that, there was actually target engagement also ongoing. So with our agencies, we had emergency services, iwi, hapu, Māori wardens, lifeline utilities, partner agencies, and other advisory groups. So we did a multi-leveled approach, which was to try and ensure that the plan reflected a full community voice. Okay, so following this, all submissions received in the consultation period are included for discussion next. They're all verbatim, exactly as the words as they came through. And with each one, you'll see in red down the bottom, there's a staff comment provided, which where there's any points raised that have suggested a question asked or anything like that, we've tried to put a response to it to sort of guide if that works, you know, existing documents at operational level. And alongside that, a technical review of the strategic group plan is underway by NEMA, along with the group plan actions, which is the supporting document, which is that year by year, what are the priorities, what are we doing, which I believe Phoenicia also referred to. Okay. That feedback's expected back from NEMA by Monday, the 14th of July. So that'll allow time for circulation prior to it getting submitted to the Minister, which the aim for that is on Monday, the 28th of July. And then the Minister's comments should be back by Monday, the 20th of August. So it's giving time for circulation prior to any meetings and any actions. What else have I got? Okay. And also a legal review of the strategic group plan, including with the proposed amendments that you see and the supporting group plan actions, confirm that the statutory requirements of the Civil Defence Act have been met. So that really brings us to that third recommendation in the report now about deliberations on all submissions received. There are staff here if there's any particular questions, because obviously there's different subjects and there's lots of subject matter experts. So I may not be able to answer lots of specific questions. So there may be the need to call for assistance if you've got any other queries. Thank you.
Thank you, Vicky. As I say, we have had all of the emergency management submissions actually sent out with all the information. So as I say, we can now move into our submissions discussion period. We can actually leave that and I open the floor for people to make comment on the submissions, please. Yes, Councillor Dinard.
Yeah, so yeah, I'd like, on the back of Roger's submissions, I'd like a little bit more in the plan for animals, pets and disability dogs. And one place that I could find it that could fit was underneath that response on item 8. So yeah, I'd like to reinforce that before we go and move this resolution, because it does say in part 3 that confirm amendments to the strategic group plan. Correct. So whether that can fit, whether the staff can fit it into other areas, so it's prominent, because I think it is quite huge when we have an emergency management, whether it's low-lying areas with farmers, with having to move animals where there's not too much of a hire, that puts great burden on it, whether there's a plan for that to happen, and then you go into areas that are isolated with people with animals and pets. We saw that in Hawke's Bay disaster over there. So yeah, if we could include that somehow. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Downard. I now recognise the Chair recognises Councillor Pike.
Thank you, Chair Brown. Yeah, just listening to Thanuksha's submission and the staff response, it notes that the long-term plan is 5 years. Just wondering if there's any opportunities to take a longer-term review, or if there's any opportunity to have further future direction in the group beyond the 5 years.
Yes, at the start of that, that's what we looked at. Ideally, a long-term plan, you should be looking up at 10 years, and that's where we try to go with the vision, the objectives and the outcomes. So when we get to the end of this 5 years, it should be a review, and that should set that structure. So that was that very clear focus of those outcomes, where we should be at the end of 5 years, let alone 10 years, because some of them are ongoing things. But the 5 years, that's what's currently set by legislation. So yeah.
Just making that clear for this. Thank you.
Is there any further questions, Councillor Buckthorpe?
Thank you, through the Chair. Just in support of Councillor Downard's recommendations, absolutely support that 100%. We see a lot of, in our region, we see a lot of flooding, and animals are affected, from cows through to dogs and pets. And the submission made regarding the disability dogs and the tag system, I think is a great idea, and something that should be followed up on, because in a situation where it needs, where time's short and animals that are special, like the disability dogs, we need to recognise straight away that that's what they are, and they get special attention. Yeah. I support that 100%.
Thank you, Councillor Buckthorpe. I actually agree. Vicky, can we have somebody from the that would like to develop that a little bit with a plan? Have you any staff member would you like to speak to it, or?
I think being welfare, that Sia would know the current documents
thank you.
That we've got. If you'd like to come up, Sia, or you've got a microphone there. Sure. In our Civil Defence Centre field guide, we're currently doing training with our staff. We also acknowledge the disability assist dog, so it includes the tags and the vests. So that's all part of our training at the moment. So we have got that included, and we also have Mr. Roger as part of our advisory group and the welfare coordination group, as well as local welfare committees.
Thank you, Sia. And the Chair recognises Julian Snowball.
Thank you, Chair. So just, and I got probably a couple of questions looking across at different people here, but just in relation to the dogs before, the dogs and animals generally, the only contribution I will make, because of course it's your plan, is there is a suggestion in the discussion document. There was quite a bit around animals. I'm looking at Matthew. So I think the NEMA legislation 100% recognises the point made by Councillor Downard in relation to people will take silly risks and put themselves in harm's way if they believe that their pets are not being cared for. So, and I think there's that at the moment, pets are classed as property, and that's why the terminology that you'll hear is people and property. Property includes pets. But my understanding is that will be clarified further in terms of the importance of dealing with those issues such as pets. Where I get a little bit more, it gets a little bit more grey is animals, because the animals are MPI. Currently in the legislation, the MPI will become very, will advocate very strongly that farm animals and animal welfare is their responsibility in an emergency. So we just need to be mindful, not careful, mindful in terms of how we frame the wording, because of course the legislation, the responsibilities for farm animals sits not directly through us, but it's with MPI. So, and I don't see that changing with the legislation, but it's certainly going to be strengthened wording around companion animals and pets.
Can I just reply to that,
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman? Yes. Thanks, Julian, for your comments. But yeah, I don't believe pets should be underneath property. I think, mainly because that exact comment that I made earlier on is that a lot of pets are a family. So I'm glad that you're going to look into that. But as animals go, there's a connection. I mean, animals are not only our livelihood, they're, for a big part of our community, and you don't get connection with the farmer unless you've got connection with the animal. So I think there's an overlap both with MPI and civil defence that needs to be, put in here as a joint effort to get the outcomes that we want.
Thank you, Councillor Downard. We have Councillor Buckthorpe.
Thank you, Chair. Just also in response to Julian's comments, I recognise that MPI has a real association with the animals, but I'm rather concerned that where you have a lead agency running a civil defence operation, and then you have another organisation that has a responsibility for the animals, the lead agency might not necessarily have the same goals or outcomes in mind that MPI might have. So how does that work? There would have to be, Councillor Downard mentioned that they should be able to work together, but we've seen in previous cases where that doesn't happen. That is my concern.
That's a fair comment. We also have an online question, and as I say, I have to ask the gentleman, could you please identify yourself because we have no name?
Yes, Councillor Taylor from Taupo. Again, my apologies. I am technologically challenged in changing the name on this meeting room, but I've been here from the start. Can I just, in terms of animals, I see it as a three-headed beast. Your disability support animals are mission critical to those who have them and rely on them for their daily lives, and we need to reflect that in the plan, and I support the staff comments on that, and that's great. But I reflect back on the Edgecombe floods, and just briefly in my previous role before coming into council, I was actually Forward Commander at Edgecombe in police, and I can tell you that irrespective of what the plan says, people will go to great lengths to look after their stock, whether MPI or anyone else has responsibility, and to look after their pets or to get into an exclusion zone to access their pets. So we need to have a reality check and be really critically mindful of the significance that animals play in people's lives. And if we don't, we are simply going to set up those on the front line to fail because people will do everything to get around them. So I support staff and support Julian's comments, but we need to be really mindful of this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. We now have identified you on the system, so that's excellent. Is there any further discussion? Councillor Downer?
Yeah, sorry, Mr. Chairman, I'll just bring this up. Just one submitter that was talking about in the plan it says including Maori in one of the paragraphs, and then the response from staff, CDM support partnership with Maori, and that require acknowledging areas for CDM to strengthen in its commitment to achieving equitable outcomes. I'd like to further that and just say that they have the knowledge, especially in the smaller communities and the facilities and the MRIs to support those local communities, and it's essential that we do have a partnership. And I even including, I don't like the word including Māori, I'd rather have it with Māori. And so, yeah, if we could strengthen that a little bit more, because for me, right from the beginning when this plan was done, I think, you know, even coming out of some of the JMAs, there was a lot of talk about whether Marais needed more infrastructure to be ready in those smaller communities, because I've, you know, got a certain amount of infrastructure and what we can do to help them. So the readiness of those. I know the Turingi Hapu talked about their event that they had during COVID, where the MRI was supplying meat and stuff like that for a lot of the local community, not just the Maori community, but all the local community. And I think that really is important in a lot of the remote communities around the place.
I totally accept your comments, Councillor Downer, on that issue. And we've already had, and I perhaps have asked Julian of that report that was floating that came through from the floods that they had just recently, and the disconnect with local iwi that they've written. So perhaps I'll allow you to speak to that, Julian.
So there was a recent report by the iwi and the Hauraki that was presented to the Waitangi Tribunal, and it was in relation to the their experiences in the North Island severe weather events and the disconnect between, in particular, between those iwi and the Hauraki and Thames Coromandel District Council. There is nothing in that report that was a surprise. It talks to the disconnect. It talks to the small remote communities that you refer to, and the key role that those marae and mana whenua groups played, and that without those groups, then there was no presence from officialdom, so to speak, no presence from the councils. So it really emphasised that there was no surprises in there for us in relation to the systemic issues that are identified, and those systemic issues identified in that report are pretty much, well, we try to address them in this document. So you know, any commentary or wordsmithing that strengthens that, then that's that would be helpful.
Thank you, Julian. That sort of puts in place the methodology that we're operating under. And Councillor Downer, you can stand assured that I'd say this joint committee does not comply with that one submission. All right, we are doing our best at the moment to move down a very different line. So thank you for that. Is there any further discussion, please, ladies and gentlemen? The Deputy Mayor will. Sorry.
Thank you, Chair. Just before we go to confirm amendments, like do the staff have comfort that the discussion around animals is adequately addressed in the document? Like we've got now, I know with the Act changes that are coming, we've also addressed that in the submission as well. But yeah, just.
Councillor, that's Julian. Recognise you, Julian Snowball, our group controller.
Look, I think we can certainly strengthen some of the language that's in there. And I think the way that we've structured our document in terms of so this is how I see it. I think we can clarify in the strategic document that when we talk about property, we separate out. We can talk about companion animals and pets, etc. I think the way we structured our document means that the strength is going to be that when the legislation changes, or we can add work programs that, without having to change the whole document, the strategic document, we can change and strengthen our focus to reflect any changes in legislation. But as you've already heard from the group welfare manager, there's already work programs in place that try to deal with some of the companion animal issues. The things that we've talked about, Deputy Mayor Taylor, Councillor Downard, around companion animals. It's when we talk about companion animals, it's a real passion of mine. When we're doing our operational planning, I 100% recognise that if we don't cater for companion animals and pets, then exactly as Deputy Mayor Taylor has said, then we're in trouble, because we can't control anything. I might be the controller, but you can't control human behaviour. So we can strengthen our operational response, but we do need to signal that in the strategic document with some stronger wording and more clarity what we mean by companion animals versus property, etc. I think we can. It's not a huge amount of change that needs to be done, I don't think, in the strategic document. We just need to strengthen the wording. The value is going to come in the way that we've structured the work programme and making sure that the operational products do what the strategic plan says.
Thank you. That's the last bit is clear.
Do you want to speak again, Deputy Mayor?
Well, just to support that, I mean, on the ground, I know in my own training the little bit of training that I've done, that companion animals and animals generally are always considered. It's just whether we've adequately reflected that in the training. Thank you.
So thank you very much. As I say, is there any further discussion? I think that we do not want to consider rewriting this document, but strengthening it in certain areas, I think, would be quite adequate. The simple fact is, this is, as I say, a strategic, as I say, long-term plan or group plan. And as long as we've got the right emphasis, I feel we can move forward. And as I say, do we need to change? We've got a motion. I've got a motion sitting here on the floor in front of me. And what it does is to confirm the amendments to the strategic group plan. Okay, so what it says here is that we task the Group Emergency Management Office with advising the submitters of the Joint Committee's decisions, but I feel we can strengthen this a little bit within that legislation. We do not, I feel, have to alter the motion very much if we do. Do I have agreement or any contention with that issue? Councillor Downard?
I'm happy to move, Mr. Chairman, as long as, as Julian has said, that, those things are strengthened in the plan, because I think they are very important.
And we've had enough members of the Joint Committee actually vocally state that. So I accept that situation. As I say, and I'm sure our group's coordinator will, and along with Vicky, will accept that and make sure that those strengthening parts are put in. All right, it's Councillor Buckthorpe.
I'm happy to second.
Thank you. So the motion has been placed on the floor. Councillor Downard has moved it along with Councillor Buckthorpe seconding again. All those in favour? Against? Sorry, you want to speak? Did you, Councillor Pike?
Sorry, I did have my hand up just before. Just really a staff action. It's not in terms of the motion, but just that for the group action plan that we look into stronger engagement with our rangatahi through our school and university partnership. It's just that that's more staff action.
Staff action. was considered, I thought it considered it more a management rather than a group plan.
Yes.
That was my feeling on that issue. So whether I stand corrected or not.
No. I agree that not in terms of the group plan, but the
Thank you.
other actions.
So you're supporting the motion?
Yes.
Thank you. So to place the motion was carried. I had no one actually vote against it. So the motion is carried. Thank you very much. We move on to the next item on the agenda, which is now, we have morning tea. So morning tea, but before we have morning tea, I'd like to call up Neville Williams, if I could please.
With your signature.
Thank you for your attendance, Neville. I've seen you over many years when I was working under Hugh and all the other years that we've been here. Thank you for all the effort that you've put in from Regional Council. Thank you for what you've done. You've allowed the liaison between our joint committees and our committees and NEVA to work collectively together and get funded and supported, which is critical for the operation of these units and the creation of what we've got. If you go back a few years, and you'd well know what I'm talking about, we didn't have the structures we've got here now. They didn't exist. And we've created what I feel is an excellent environment to be able to develop a good response for civil defence within our area. And you're one of the contributing factors to that. And, you know, we recognise the effort that you allowed us to create. So thank you very much for what you've done. And in my hand here, I'd like to bring you up to the front. We have a photo at the front or at the back or the side? Down there? All right, I'll go down there with it. Okay. We have here a Civil Defence Award for him and a Civil Defence Award here for everyone to see. Along with that, we have a voucher that entitles the bearer to purchase goods to the sum of $150, okay, in recognition. And it's signed by NV Motorbikes, who I know then, NV Motorbikes. I used to race in the Pirelli, so I know all about it. Ladies and gentlemen, I will call a short adjournment for morning tea to enjoy a cup of tea and have some time with Neville and everybody else. Thank you.